Have you ever gone about your entire day without craving anything sugary, only to demolish a row of chocolates at 9 p.m., basically undoing a day of hard work? You make sure to eat clean all day, resisting the urge to get biscuits at work, yet the second you get home, all bets are off. The truth is, it isn't discipline or motivation that you lack. This is a dopamine hijack. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how sugar hijacks your dopamine system, why your gut is the key to resetting your cravings, and the simple 7-day protocol I use with clients to break the cycle without cutting out carbs or relying on superhuman discipline. But before I do that, let's talk about willpower. Think of it like this. You have a finite amount of willpower that lowers throughout the day. Willpower allows you to wait a little longer for that reward. As the day goes on, people use mental energy to make decisions, staying focused, resisting urges, combating stress. So at night, decision fatigue is high, your stress is high, your patience is low, and your brain wants a fast reward. And sugar just gives you that cheap dopamine hit that feels like I finally get relief. And that's why people binge at night, even when they did good all day. At night, your brain stops negotiating and starts hunting. Your brain has been trained to crave sugar on a primal level. Sugar to our ancient ancestors meant that they found a few good bushels of berries or fruit, meaning that their hard work paid off and they can load up on carbs and fuel themselves to survive yet another day. But here's the thing, modern food products have been engineered to tap into this part of the brain with hyper-palatable food products. And there's the part that nobody tells you. Those signals start in your intestines, not your mouth. So let me explain what's actually happening when you can't stop thinking about chocolate, biscuits, and that leftover cake in the fridge. Most people think cravings happen because sugar tastes good, but that's not the whole story. Sugar triggers a dopamine response in your brain, not when you taste it, but when it hits your gut. And so here's how that works. Your intestines are lined with specialized neurons, gut sensory cells that detect nutrients. When the sugar enters your gut, these neurons send a signal up the vagus nerve to your brain saying, "Reward incoming, do that again." This triggers the dopamine release. And here's the part that most people get wrong. Dopamine is not pleasure. Dopamine is triggered as a reward for motivation. It's the more please signal. It's the drive to seek, to repeat, to pursue the next hit. That's why you can finish an entire bag of sweets and still want more. It's not because you're enjoying it, it's because your brain is telling you to keep going. There's more rewards here. It's your old survival instinct being used against you, unfortunately. And this is the same mechanism that fuels addiction. And if you have an addictive personality, you need to be extra careful. Alcohol, drugs, pornography, scrolling your phone when you should be asleep is all wired the same way. But with sugar, the mastermind lies in your gut, the second brain, as it were. Now, a study published in Nature Neuroscience found that when sugar bypassed the taste receptors and went straight to the gut, it still triggered a dopamine release in preference for that food, even when the animals couldn't taste it. And if your gut-brain communications is dysregulated, if those neurons are damaged, if your microbiome is out of balance, your brain gets stuck in this loop. Crave sugar, eat sugar, get more sugar. That's the dopamine hijack. That's the decoy, and it's not your fault. Now, there is a bit of good news to all of this. Just like your gut learned to crave sugar, it can learn to crave real food and unlearn that. Your gut neurons don't just sense sugar. They sense protein, essential fats, amino acids, the nutrients your body actually needs. When you constantly give your gut those inputs, the dopamine signaling starts to shift. Your brain begins to associate those foods with reward instead of constantly chasing a sugar hit. This is called neuroplasticity, your nervous system's ability to rewrite itself based on what you feed it. But here's the problem. Most people are stuck in the opposite loop. Processed foods, especially those loaded with sugar, emulsifiers, and industrial oils, they damage the gut lining. They thin the mucus barrier, disrupt the microbiome, and cause those gut neurons to retract. And when that happens, your gut-brain communication gets a little fuzzy. The signals are just weaker, and the cravings become more chaotic. Now, a research published in Cell Metabolism found that diets high in processed foods led to a reduced gut neuron function and increased preference for high sugar, high fat foods, even when healthier options were available. Translation, the more junk you eat, the more junk you crave. But the reverse is true. So when you repair the gut and feed it these good things again, the neuron regenerates, the microbiome rebalances, and the cravings start to normalize. So I did say I was going to give you a solution, and here it is. This is the protocol that I use with clients to break the dopamine hijack loop in 7 days. This isn't a diet, this is not a detox, it is a reset. It is a way to teach your gut to send better signals to your brain. Now the first step is pretty simple. Cut out all foods with obvious added sugars. Now this means no sugary drinks like sodas, juice, or flavored coffee, no desserts or sweets to be kept at home. Throw them out if you must, it's better this way. And no processed snacks with extra sugar. Check the label. If sugar is the top 3 ingredients, it's out. Now as a reminder, you're not cutting out carbs. You're just cutting out the dopamine decoys, the foods that hijack your brain. And now returning to real nutrition. You're going to replace your usual breakfast or first meal with a protein first option. Eggs, Greek yogurt, smoked salmon, whey protein, leftover chicken from dinner. As long as you get about 30 to 40 grams of protein in your first meal, you're sweet. Why? Well, because protein triggers gut neurons that send satiety signals to your brain. It shuts down that more please loop before it starts. Now, a study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that high protein breakfasts significantly reduce cravings and snacking later in the day compared to a high carb breakfast, even when the total calories are the exact same. So in days 1 and 2, remove the decoys, start with protein. In days 3 and 4, you're going to start feeling those cravings, and that's completely normal. Your gut neurons are still wired to seek sugar, and your brain hasn't fully recalibrated yet. So here's the interrupter protocol. When a craving hits, do these things in this order. Drink a full glass of water. Sometimes what feels like hunger is dehydration. Eat small servings of protein, a handful of nuts, a boiled egg, a few pieces of lean meat. Protein activates satiety signals in the gut. Then I want you to walk for 10 minutes. Movement shifts dopamine focus away from food onto your environment. And then wait for 10 minutes. And if you still have those cravings, have some unprocessed carbs instead. So that's your rice instead of that sugary treat. However, 80% of the time, the cravings will definitely fade. And this works because you're giving your brain an alternative dopamine pathway, water, protein, movement, instead of just white-knuckling through it and baring your teeth. So I had a client, a 46-year-old software engineer who used to demolish chocolate every single night with a side of wine. Now we didn't just tell her to stop, we gave her this interrupter protocol. First day felt really weird. She was almost missing a part of her routine, but come day 3 to 4, it felt a little tricky, but she substituted the snack for more hydration by way of water and walking on her home treadmill. And get this, within a week, she told me that she had forgotten about the chocolates. She didn't even notice them in the house anymore. And that's not willpower. That's neuroplasticity at work. She's not only cut out her cravings, but replaced it with a healthier habit, closing that loop on a positive note. Now comes days 5 to 7. This is where we're going to accelerate gut repair. Before this reset, your gut was probably filled with sugar-craving bacteria that set up shop like that one annoying friend who has ruined your house party and stayed just long after the party's over. Just go home, Greg. So imagine that. Greg came for the party because you made a large cake and had sugary drinks on offer. Everyone had a slice and was being cordial, but Greg kept taking larger and larger slices, going over to the drinks area for refills, and honestly was becoming quite a nuisance. Over time, the nice and good party guests left until it was only Greg who remained. You want him to leave so badly, but you're a nice person and don't say anything. But because you didn't shoo him away, he starts raiding your fridge for ice cream and asks if you have biscuits in the pantry. And when you finally run out of these sugary snacks, Greg throws a bit of a hissy fit and finally leaves. Now for your next party, you offer salads, a roast chicken, and a smaller serving of dessert. Upon hearing this, the good guests come and have a great time. But Greg is nowhere to be seen. He doesn't like these things. He was hoping for the cake. Kind of like the bad gut bacteria that crave sugar and sends those signals to your brain. The second you start feeding them these things, they go away. So instead, we're actually just going to start introducing omega-3s and fermented foods to help heal the gut. Omega-3s can come from the way of small fatty fish or a high-quality omega-3 supplement. Fermented foods such as kimchi, yogurt, kefir are going to help repopulate the gut microbiome with healthier bacteria, and that's going to help thrive and grow your gut back to good health. Now, After 7 days, you've got two options. Option one is to have a bit of a plan. If you can have one serving of something sweet, like a small dessert or a cookie or two, and stop without spiraling into the 1 turns into 10 again, then you're fine and it's work. Enjoy it occasionally, your gut-brain axis has been recalibrated. Option two, if one bite still leads to 10 and you feel bad about it, that's okay. It just means you need a little more time to recalibrate the gut. Try it for another 7 to 14 days, prioritizing protein, omega-3s, and those fermented foods. Don't worry, your body will adapt eventually. I really need you to understand this. Your cravings are not a moral failing. They're a neurological and gut-based signal that's been hijacked by years of processed food, chronic stress, poor sleep, and a damaged microbiome. You don't need more discipline. You just need to rewire the system. Your gut can learn to crave real food. You just have to teach it.